Should we pray for all suffering? Have you ever whispered a prayer, not for yourself, but for someone else? Maybe it was for your mother lying in a hospital bed, or a friend going through heartbreak, or even for a stranger on the news, a war victim, a child crying from hunger, a soul lost in grief. You didn't know if it would change anything, but still. You prayed, with closed eyes and an open heart. You sent out a silent wish into the universe. Why? Why do we pray for those who suffer, even when we have no power to fix their pain, even when we're not sure anyone's listening? Is it faith? Is it habit? Or is it something deeper, a calling from the soul? Today, I want to ask you something that might feel simple at first, but carries the weight of the human heart. Should we pray for all suffering, not just the pain of our loved ones, not just the struggles we understand, but for every aching soul, for those we've never met, even those who've wronged us? Should we pray for them too? Because maybe, just maybe, a single prayer isn't about changing fate, but about transforming the one who prays. Welcome to this journey, not a journey of religion, but of the heart. Of awakening, of returning to the most sacred part of what makes us human, a journey into the wisdom of Buddhism, and the question that touches all hearts. Before we talk about prayer, before we even speak of compassion, we need to understand what we're praying for. We need to understand suffering. In Buddhism, the first truth the Buddha ever taught, the very first noble insight, was this: life is dukkha, life is suffering, not because life is only pain, but because everything changes. Everything we hold on to, health, relationships, money, youth, even life itself, slips through our fingers like sand. We suffer because we cling, we grasp at permanence in a world made of impermanence. We suffer when things go wrong, but we also suffer because we fear losing the things that are going right. Even in joy, there's an undercurrent of anxiety. How long will this last? And so, suffering takes many forms: a sick body, a broken heart, loneliness that lingers in silence, grief that burns through time, or the simple emptiness of chasing success and still feeling hollow. But here's the thing: suffering is not a punishment, it's not a curse, and it's not something we can outrun. It's a mirror, a teacher, a thread that connects every single human being. When we suffer, we finally understand each other. No titles, no wealth, no fame, just the raw truth of being alive in an uncertain world. That's why we pray, not to escape suffering, but to hold it with tenderness, to recognize that my pain is not just mine. It's ours. In Buddhism, we don't turn away from suffering, we don't numb it, we don't hate it, we bow to it. Because within suffering lies the door to awakening. The Buddha didn't promise a life without pain, he showed a path to walk with pain. Without being destroyed by it, he taught us to understand it, to breathe through it, to grow from it. So when you pray for someone in pain, you're not offering pity, you're offering presence. You're saying, I see you, I feel you, you are not alone. In this way, suffering is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of true connection, and it's where compassion begins. When people think of prayer, they often imagine asking for something, a request, a wish, a plea to the heavens. But in Buddhist tradition, prayer is not about asking, it's about awakening. It's not begging for a miracle, it's becoming the space where miracles can arise. So, what does that really mean? Imagine lighting a candle in the dark. You don't demand the darkness to go away, you just bring in the light. That's what Buddhist prayer is. It's a turning inward, a moment where the heart aligns with clarity, stillness, and compassion, a whisper to the universe that says, I will not close my eyes to suffering, I will not look away, I will love, even when it hurts. In Buddhism, prayer is not a transaction, it's a transformation. We don't pray to a god to rescue us, we awaken the Buddha nature within us, the deep, unshakable compassion that already exists inside every being. We chant not to manipulate the world, but to harmonize ourselves with truth. We offer incense not to bribe fate, but to remind the mind to return to presence. We bow not in weakness, but in humility to the vastness of life. So when we pray for those who suffer, we are not fixing them, we are transforming ourselves, from bystanders into participants, from distant observers into compassionate witnesses. You may think, how can words help someone who's dying? How can thoughts reach someone halfway across the world? But let me tell you a secret, the greatest healing is not always in fixing pain, it's in not abandoning the one who's in it, and prayer is how we show up, fully, silently, powerfully, when we send loving kindness, when we radiate metta, when we hold someone in the light of awareness. We are not changing the laws of the universe, we are changing the way we walk through it, with tenderness, with presence, with the vow, I will keep my heart open. And when that happens, prayer stops being words, and becomes who we are. It becomes our breath, our gaze, our silence, our smile, our action. That is the power of Buddhist prayer, not in controlling the world, but in choosing who we are within it. It's easy to pray for someone you love, it's natural to feel compassion for a child in pain, it's instinctive to wish peace upon a friend who's grieving, but what about the others? What about the boss who humiliated you, the ex who broke your heart, the politician who spreads hatred, the stranger who hurt someone you care about? Do they deserve your prayers? Most of us want to say no, and it makes sense. Why should we offer love to those who cause harm? Why should our hearts bow for people who seem unworthy? But here's the shocking truth in Buddhist practice, if your compassion has limits, it's not real compassion. Let that sink in, because this isn't just kindness. It's courage. To pray for the suffering of someone who has caused you suffering is not weakness, it's the highest form of strength. The Buddha didn't teach selective love, he taught universal compassion, even toward those who did evil, not because their actions are okay, but because their hearts are lost, because only a person drowning in ignorance, a person tormented by greed, hatred, and delusion, can bring pain to others. And so, we pray, not for their success, not for their comfort, but for their awakening. We pray that the seeds of wisdom sprout in their hearts, that the poison of anger is dissolved by insight, that the fire they spread outside is cooled by the still water of awareness inside. You may wonder, why should I bear that burden? Why should I be the one to forgive, to love, to pray? Because you are the one who sees, and with great awareness comes great responsibility. You are not praying because they deserve it, you are praying because you don't want to become like them. Hatred is contagious, but so is compassion, and when we send loving kindness to those who are lost in darkness, we do not excuse their actions, we reclaim our light. This is why the Buddha said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love is hatred healed. This is an eternal law. So ask yourself, who is hardest for you to pray for? That is your greatest teacher, because that person is the gateway to your liberation. Not all prayers have words, not all offerings need incense, not every bow needs to touch the floor. Sometimes, the deepest prayers are lived, not spoken. Think about this, when a mother stays awake all night beside her sick child, isn't that a prayer? When a friend holds space for your tears, isn't that a prayer? When someone forgives without receiving an apology, gives without expecting recognition, loves without needing to be loved back, isn't that the purest form of devotion? In Buddhism, prayer is not something we do, it's something we are. It's in how we wash the dishes with mindfulness, how we greet a stranger with genuine presence, how we take care of this fragile body. Not out of vanity, but as a temple of awareness. It's the way we walk, the way we breathe, the way we listen, without rushing to fix or explain. To live this way is to become a walking sutra, a living chant, not just chanting Om Mani Padme Hum aloud, but letting your very heartbeat whisper it, with every breath you take. There was once a Zen master who said, a student asked, what is the most sacred prayer? The master replied, when you wash your rice mindfully, you see. It's never about impressing the heavens, it's about being fully present in this moment. A monk sweeping the floor with love is praying more deeply than someone shouting words into the void. And when you hold compassion silently in your heart for someone else, even someone who doesn't know you exist, that too is prayer, because true compassion doesn't need an audience, it just needs authenticity. And sometimes, the most powerful offering you can make is simply not to react in anger, to pause before judging, to breathe instead of blaming. That's sacred. Let your silence be a blessing, let your patience be your mantra, let your small kindnesses become lotus petals, offered to the altar of humanity. In this way, your whole life becomes a prayer, and maybe, just maybe, that's the only kind of prayer the universe truly listens to. You see, prayer is not just about what you say, it's about what you do. It's one thing to pray for the world's suffering, but it's another thing entirely to step into that suffering and be the change. When you offer compassion through words, you plant a seed, but when you offer it through your actions, that's when the seed begins to bloom. Let's take a moment and think about this. When you give a smile to someone who's hurting, that's a prayer in action. When you listen deeply to someone who feels unseen, that's a prayer in action. When you stand up for the oppressed, when you give food to the hungry, when you volunteer your time without seeking recognition, that is the embodiment of compassion. And yet, we often think that the only way to help is through grand gestures, through fixing the world, through solving the suffering of billions. But that's not the Buddha's way. The Buddha taught that every action, no matter how small, is a doorway to liberation. Every smile, every hand reached out, is a prayer answered. It's not about the scale of what you do, it's about the purity of your intention. When you act with kindness, you align your heart with the essence of the universe. One day, a monk was walking through the streets. When he saw a beggar sitting by the roadside, the beggar looked up and asked for alms, and the monk, without hesitation, gave him everything he had in his bowl. But the beggar refused the offering. He said, "I don't want your food, I want your heart." The monk paused. He realized that the true offering wasn't in the food, it was in the act of seeing the beggar, of meeting him with dignity, of offering him compassion with no strings attached. That's the heart of prayer in action. It's not just what you give, but how you see the person you're giving to. It's not about changing the world with grand gestures, it's about changing yourself, changing the way you interact with the world around you. True compassion is not passive, it's a living, breathing force, moving through your body, flowing through your hands, radiating from your eyes, echoing in your words. When you pray for the suffering of others, make sure your feet are moving towards them. When you pray for peace, let your voice become the calm. When you pray for love, let your touch be gentle. In the Buddhist tradition, there is no separation between prayer and action. One cannot exist without the other. They are two sides of the same coin. To pray for peace and not take action is like planting a seed and never watering it. To act without prayer is like watering a dry, barren ground with no intention for growth. So ask yourself, what is your prayer asking you to do, and how can you show up today in the world as a living prayer? It's time to take your compassion out of your mind and into your hands. It's time to move, to act, to be the prayer that the world needs, and when you do, you'll see that the world will begin to change, one small action at a time, one prayer in motion. We've journeyed through the depths of suffering, we've explored the silent language of prayer, we've seen how compassion is not just a thought, but a living, breathing act of love. But now, as we reach the end of this story, remember, this is not a conclusion, it's a turning point, because the end is just the beginning. Every prayer, every act of kindness, every small step toward awakening, is a new start, a new chapter in your life. And when you open that chapter, you see that it's not just about you anymore, it's about the endless web of life that connects us all. The Buddha taught that the cycle of life, death, and rebirth is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's a reminder that nothing is ever truly finished, each moment is both the end and the beginning, and each act of compassion ripples out, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. What you do today, how you choose to pray, to act, to live, will echo through eternity. Because when you awaken to your true nature, you awaken to the boundless interconnectedness of all beings. And that is the ultimate freedom. So, as you close your eyes tonight, remember that your prayers have power, not just to change the world, but to change you, and in changing yourself, you change the world. As we end this journey, ask yourself, how will you live your prayer tomorrow? Will you walk with compassion? Will you speak with kindness? Will you act with courage? Will you carry the flame of wisdom, and pass it to those who are still lost in darkness? Because every time you choose to be compassionate, every time you choose to act with love, the cycle continues, and the end is just the beginning. So let us bow together, with gratitude for the journey we've shared, and with the recognition that the path is always unfolding, one step at a time, leading us all toward the light. May all beings be free from suffering, may all beings awaken, may all beings find peace, and may our prayers, our actions, and our love, be the beginning of a new world, And before we part ways, if you found these teachings meaningful and want to continue exploring the wisdom of Buddhism, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Zen Buddhism Wisdom. Hit the like button if you feel the message resonates with you, and share it with others who might find peace in these words. Click the bell icon to stay updated with more deep insights, and let's continue this journey together. Together, let's awaken and walk the path of compassion.